Hi, we're doing the Q lesson. It's similar to the cousins lesson, it's just with two colors. Here's what we're going for, and what you'll need is some tape, scissors, something to bead on, some pony beads, 32 of one color and 16 of another, and some craft lanyard. So you'll start by taping your craft lanyard down with the long end going from right to left. Then string up 16 beads to go all the way around. Now you may find it easier to work with your item flat, and then you can use both hands. But just go through all the beads. Now pay attention, this is the first bead we're going through. Pay attention to that one because we're gonna have to go through that one again to close out the round. So just keep going through, make sure you don't miss one single bead, otherwise this won't work. All right, now we're back to that first bead, and I know it's the first bead because it's two threads around, once when we strung it up, once when we went around. So we're gonna go through a third time, and then we can start our 3-drop. Okay, so now just push all of these beads around out of the way. And we're going to count out our colors. Oh, I forgot to talk about the pattern. Here's my color A and color B. You can see how the pattern goes. Color A, 1, 2. Color B, 1, 3, 4, 5. And then 6 and 7 is our color A again. Okay. I'll leave that where you can see what we're doing. All right, so we're going to start by counting out 8 beads of color A. Now for the starting row, it's a little different than all the other rows. It seems a little harder, so just be patient. So I'm going to push one bead to the right and the second bead. I'm going to pick up a bead. Whoops. I'm going to skip this bead and go through this bead. Now your thread is going to go underneath the bead that you skipped, and the bead is going to set to the left of the bead you skipped. All right, so I just kind of pull it that way a little bit. Now be careful when you pull, because if you pull this way, see what happens? Everything gets out of alignment. Pull that way. This is what you want it to look like. Doesn't look like anything now, but the next one you'll kind of see how this happens. So pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through a bead with your thread going underneath the bead you skipped and your bead going to the left of the bead you skipped. So now can you see how the 3-drop formed? It goes 1, 2, 3. So this is the pattern you want it to go look like that all the way around. So let's just keep going. Skip a bead, pick up a bead, go through a bead, pull it tight, pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through a bead. Now remember, like I said, you don't really want to pull it this way because look what happens. Everything kind of gets out of alignment. You don't want it to look like that. You want it to look like this. 1, 2, 3, dropping down. So to make that happen, if you just pivot, kind of go like that, and then it gets into place a little more. But you might have to scooch them in there. It gets a little tight at the end, but they will all fit. Skip a bead, pick up a bead, go through a bead. Going underneath the bead you skipped, and the bead you picked up is going to the left the bead that you skipped. Ooh, that one's a little tight. There we go. All right. So now we're getting to our very last bead. Now I didn't mention to pay attention to the first bead. Oh my gosh, wait a second, what's happened? Oh God, darn it. What happened? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, because one of the beads, I lost one. All right, see how hard it is to mess up? All right, here we go. We got our 8th bead, our last bead of the round. Now, this bead right here was the first bead of the round. I also call it the trickster bead, and I'll tell you why next trip around. You want to finish by going through that trickster bead. Every time you finish a round, you want to go through this first bead you put on the round. And I'll tell you why next trip around. Okay, so now we've done our first and second round and the third round as part of our starting row. But now we're just going to do one row at a time. So we'll go on to round 4, which is going to be our second red in our row. So let's just keep going. I'm not going to drop any beads this time. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So by counting out your beads every round, you'll know when you get to the end, and you'll know that you have to go through that trickster bead. So now the whole skip a bead thing is over. You just go through the next lowest bead. Some people see it as you're skipping these 2 beads. However makes sense to you, that is fine. Now I'm just showing you one way to do it. This is the way I hold my work. It may work better for you, you know, to hold it this way and go that way. Or you might hold it this way and go that way. As you can see, that doesn't work for me. So it's just whatever feels right for you. However you see the pattern forming makes sense to you. You know, there's different ways to do this, and I'm just showing you one way. So now we're just picking up beads, going through the next lowest bead, starting our row of red. Okay, we're on bead 8. So if you remember, I told you about that trickster bead. So this trickster bead is the first bead of the round we put on. And remember, I told you to go through the trickster bead to finish the round every time. And now I'm going to show you why. Okay, so I'm going through my last bead, and look at this thread. Look where the thread is going. The thread is just kind of wanting to go through that trickster bead. So if you didn't count out your beads and you weren't really sure, just pay attention to where your thread is saying it wants to go. So now look where your thread is going. It's not wanting to go through any bead, and there's going to be room there for a next bead. Okay, so I'm going to show you, should have showed you on this one. Okay, so here's where we didn't go through the trickster bead yet. So you can see the drape of the thread just wants to go through there. And here, the drape of the thread, it's ready for another bead. And you can see the difference. If you were to put a bead there, it's going to start going crooked, and your work will not, it'll just be crooked, and there's no fixing it. That's one mistake that you cannot fix, is if you don't go through your trickster bead. So why is the trickster bead so tricky? Well, now this one is our trickster bead. This is the first one of our next round. Now this one was, that one was it, and now it is. It's always tricking you. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 7. Aw, dang it, I'm short a bead. Oh, there's the 8th one. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go on our last round of our red row. We just pick up a bead, go through the next lowest bead. Things are looking kind of wonky here because I don't think I really did my work. Didn't really get the right tension. And so when I say tension, it's just kind of pulling it to get it tight in there. And what pulls it into place is just the tension. And so like I said, it feels weird to pull this way, so you can pivot your piece, pull it that way, and then turn it back to look at it. So we just keep going. And give it a little tension there. Now rows are the easiest pattern to start with, because if you just do alternating rows of different colors, you'll see how the pattern forms, and it's easy to spot mistakes, and then you can learn how to fix those mistakes as you go along. Now you can see that was just kind of not where I want it to be, so I just kind of push it into place, and I'll give it a little tension there. Working with the needle and thread's a little bit different. This stuff's kind of slippery. Okay, I'm on bead 8. So that means I have to end the row by going through my trickster bead, which is the first bead of the round I put on. So I'm gonna go through here, and my thread is just saying, hey, I want to go through that trickster bead. Now we have done a row. So a row is just 3 times a round of one color. And so we don't really have room to do a full another row, but we're just going to do 2 more rounds to make a symmetrical pattern. And so I'm just going to kind of push my stuff up there. If it's not moving where we want it, you can take that tape off. The tape doesn't need to be on there. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, counting out my next round. If your lanyard's getting a little short, you can, this stuff is stretchy, so you can kind of stretch it out a little bit, but don't pull it too hard because it can break. Okay, so now this is the first bead of our round. It's the trickster bead now. So we're going to go through there. Just keep going. Once you get your work going, it goes faster. It's just that starting row that can really be difficult. And so you can watch my other video about the count of how we got to that number. I won't go into that too much. So look, we're on my 8th bead. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My thread's telling me to go through that trickster bead. There we go. All right, we just got 1 more round to do. So we got 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. All right, we're on bead 8. Last bead of the round. Finish it off going through the first bead of the round, aka the trickster bead. All right, I'm gonna push that up there a little bit. Just gonna pull it tight. I'm just gonna check my work to make sure everything looks the same all the way around. So you can kind of see, this is how the pattern formed. That's what you want it to look all the way around. 2 blue, 3 red, 2 blue. And so just see how that formed. That one's kind of funny. I'm just going to kind of scoot them in there a little bit. but just check it. Make sure it goes all the way around. And it looks good. So if this were needle and thread, we would do some knotting, but this stuff doesn't knot up very nicely. So you can just kind of follow the line of your beads and just see like where the thread wants to go, depending on where you go, and you can twist it, you know, and it might even help to go like that, you know, cut a little point there. All right, I think we did it. Oh, look, it's coming out in a funny spot. You know, sometimes the thread just goes where it wants to go, and that's fine. Just as long as it's just kind of following the lines of your other thread and not going some weird direction, like you wouldn't want to put it up through there because then you have a line going. Just follow the lines of your other thread. Okay, I think that's good. Let's call it a day. All right, we'll just snip that off. And there you go. That's the Q lesson.